Alright, well, future Cody here is introing this video because past Cody done messed up and forgot to shoot an intro before we even got into the work. So this episode, we're going to hop into modifying up the doghouse cover, also creating the driver's seat mount so we can mount our seat in place. Now we don't quite get to the passenger seat, but we'll get to that later. I hope y'all enjoy the episode, guys. Next time, do better, Cody. Let's get to it! There we go, we got her sanded down pretty good, got her washed off, cleaned up, and she's drying now. You'll notice there's a couple spots here where I'm going to actually have to patch anyway in the corners. Up in this corner here, I think we're probably good in this bottom corner. Maybe add another layer or two though, because it is kind of thin. We're gonna have to patch this top part up here as well, and then actually quite a bit more down here. So there's a couple areas we need to patch anyways, and then I need to set this in here once it kind of dries. Go ahead and kind of mark up where we think we're going to need to cut out. Now my plan is to go ahead and cut out the section that I need out of there in order to fit everything. Then we'll basically build a mold from the back side of this to the form that we need. Once that form is rigid, I'll go ahead and take it back off of this, cover it with a non-stick coating so that the new resin and everything doesn't stick to it, and then we'll stick it back on the back and we'll fiberglass this in. But first things first, we'll let this dry a little bit more, we'll set it in, draw out what we think we need to cut out of this and where we need to build. Alright, so I went ahead and took a pencil, kind of drew out where I wanted to cut. Now I drew different lines. I'm going to start with kind of the smallest or the inward most lines first. See if it'll work that way, and then I may go ahead and cut other lines like this little indentation here. I don't really need to kind of cut that far out or anything, but I may, let me fly. But I may end up cutting that and then just doing a flat piece onto whatever I'm going to do here. So I kind of have marked out a few different lines. I want to go ahead and take off probably this rounded part at the bottom here just to make it simpler to actually fiberglass. I am going to use my little air powered saw here, so I'm going to set y'all down and get to cutting this out, and then we'll put it in there, see if it clears everything. Well, that's not working too well, so I'm going to go to a little cutoff wheel. That should cut through this a lot easier. The blade keeps getting stuck. Oh well, we'll try something else. There we go. I ended up having to cut out a little bit more out of here than I would have thought originally, but we ended up having to clear our little glow plug controller here. Of course, we needed to clear our exhaust, and then we also have our trans fluid checker. We also have our trans fluid dipstick and tube over there, so we had to clear that all the way over to that side. That took out a big chunk as well. We do clear everything now, so I'm going to kind of work on probably right here first. I want to get this angle done. I may actually do that in kind of a thin piece of metal in order to kind of hold everything in place. I may go ahead and do that first, and then we can work on everything off of that part. So we're going to get some cardboard and basically make our walls and test fit things as we go so we know it'll still fit in here. Hopefully this shows kind of what we're trying to do here. Now this is very rough, and this is probably just my first go at it, but roughly done here, this is approximately what it's going to kind of look like. So I'm going to play around with a few things, see what I can come up with to make this easier. I may have to get some better cardboard, so not like corrugated cardboard, but actually like poster cardboard type stuff. That would actually help a lot. Anyway, you can kind of see what I'm going to do here. Now, I'll probably play around with a lot of stuff, and I'll probably just come back to y'all once I get everything done, or once I get it kind of mocked up or whatever. All right, well, we have our form here. I went ahead and finished up the cardboard form. Actually filled it up with some of this expandable foam stuff, so our cardboard form is underneath all that. And then I went ahead and covered it with this kind of black trash bag material. This plastic should help keep our resin from sticking to it too much. Now it probably will, because of some of our wrinkles and stuff. The resin may try to grab that. It's known for doing stuff like that. But this should be relatively easy to remove once we have fiberglass over the top of it. And then I can, if it does catch any of this part and tears it, I can always sand that back out of the back side of it. I'm not saying at all that this is the best way to do this, but it's kind of a rough form, and I'll work with it and sand it down to what I want before we do a final finish on it and everything. So this should work fine for what I'm wanting right now. We got to do quite a few layers on this, sand it down, do some more layers. I also got a little bit of this kind of rigid metal mesh. I believe this is aluminum mesh on here. So I plan on putting this between the mold and our doghouse cover, or what's left of it. Basically, then we may have a little bit better kind of infrastructure to put our fiberglass to and stick to. And this, we'll lay the fiberglass on one side, and after we remove the mold on the back side, we'll lay some more on the other side. And I've seen it done kind of on small patches, but never on something big. It does kind of, you can tell right here, I kind of mess with it a little bit. It does kind of hold some form, so hopefully it'll help us on holding that form a little bit too. All right, so here's our kind of first coat and a little bit extra here. So I ended up actually seaming the back side here. It's drying up right now, then I have to sand it all back down. On the front, we are looking a little wavy, but this side needs some more coats as well. Sanding down, flattening everything else out. It is going to be a process to get this to look exactly how I want it to, so I got to be kind of not in a hurry on this. The next thing we're going to be working on in this episode as well is the seat mount. So our little seat riser in the back will basically sit like that and bolt in place to those little holes there. Now on that front plate, we're going to come off of this, come up on top of here, and then if I can, I'll go ahead and bend the tabs down in order to bolt in the front as well. So on the passenger side, I'll get some steel plate kind of like this and basically sandwich that box top, the top part of the seat base box, whatever you want to call it. But anyway, this will sandwich that. That'll give it a little bit more strength than just the fiberglass that seat box top is made out of. I'm gonna get to measuring out what I need on this, go ahead and cut that out, and then we'll continue on this while we let our air compressor catch back up for our air in order to keep sanding on the fiberglass. Well, there we have the back piece now, the little part that lifts up off the end. That is still really hot. Ooh, man, I welded this a while ago. I guess it's just so hot outside in the shop that it is not cooling down fast. So we have our completed driver seat base here. Went ahead and drilled out the holes. These fit in there. They're just loose right now to hold it in place. We're gonna lift the seat in here and mark out where our sliders need to be. And then we'll drill the holes for the sliders, mount the sliders to this, and then mount them to the seat. So on the base of the seat here, we went ahead and bolted in our angle iron there, and the slider will basically bolt to the bottom of that. But we need to lift this up in there and mark basically where we can mount the slider in there, and then we'll drill all the holes and stuff. Well, there we go, we got our seat in. Now these bolts are all just loose because I have to take all that back out and paint everything, but the seat is in place. So I did end up actually leaving off the slider. Now, the issue I was having was the slider was gonna put us up another probably inch to So 1.25 inches or so, probably about the same space that this does here. So that would actually set us up a little bit higher, and I don't want to get any closer to that steering wheel. I went ahead and sat in here, and this actually sits at the perfect spot for me. So I'm gonna leave this here. I'm about 5'11". If you are like 6'6" or so, you might have a little bit more difficult time here, but this fits me well. The angle of my leg coming off and then down to the pedal and everything is just perfect for me. So this we're gonna leave it. If somebody was a little bit shorter, you could go ahead and put some more cushion in the back, or just move it forward a little bit. But we got the driver's seat in place now, and now I get to tear it all apart so I can paint it and then put it all back together again. Alright, now that I had the shape pretty much done, sanded up and flattened, I went ahead and got this other type of stuff. It's a fiberglass type paste where the fiberglass is already in the paste, so you mix it up. We're going to let all that harden up and we'll sand that all down to flat, and then we'll coat it again after that. Now I keep hopping back and forth between the fiberglass and the seat mounts. It seems like it's going pretty well doing that because I'll work on this a little while, and while I let that dry up, I go work on the seat mount. Of course, we have another storm blowing in. But we got a lot of the sanding done on here. As you can see, it really straightened up all the lines on here. Now I do have another coat that I'm going to be putting on here. It'll basically fill in any of these little imperfections, and then also feathering out these edges a little bit more. Alright, our final coating is on here. This filled any of the low spots that we get everything flat. Now I will have to come back and knock everything back down, and I'll probably use a sanding block to keep everything flat to do so. Alright, so we are almost done with this thing now. We ended up getting that final sand done. I went ahead and put just a real thin coat of that resin on everything as well, just sealing up everything a little bit better. I still need to trim this edge here, but I want everything to fully cure there, and then I'll trim that up with a nice small little rotary blade thing. Now I still have plans for this, but y'all are actually going to have to come back in a different episode to see what those are, because they are not very quick to be done on this, so we are going to have to extend it into a different episode. But we got this done, and we got that seat mount and everything done. We have some seat belts coming in. They should be here by the end of the week, but it is very solid now, and so I'm happy with this, and I'm ready to move on to the next steps with this. Well, that is where I'm going to have to leave it for this episode, and you're going to have to come back in a later episode to see how I finish that doghouse cover. I also have some seat belts coming in, I believe, by the end of the week here, so we'll get to mounting those up as well. Y'all should take a guess in the comments down below on what I'm finishing that up with and see if y'all are correct or not. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, and I will see y'all next time.